Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome to Wombs with a View. I'm Sylvia,
I'm Jenny.
and we are here to share more stories with you and share, our lives with our kids to help inspire you. We talk about all things maternity, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and just to help you know that you have options when it comes to all of this. And today is a great show. I mean, I say that every time, Jenny. I know I do. But
Would we do a show that wasn't great is the question.
exactly. And Jenny and I, yeah, we were talking, I guess, about having more children, and then the topic
Together. So
together.
this
Yes,
is
sister wives. That's us. That would be perfect. So what are we talking about? How did we leave this? How did we come about this show, Jenny?
well, I don't know about the people listening, and I would love to know if anybody wants to leave a comment and let us know. But I feel like in my life, I had my kids early-ish in the grand scheme of things. I was 26 when I was pregnant the first time.
Yeah, that is
Um,
young.
Young compared to generations before us
Mm.
for sure. I mean, you know what I mean. Um, uh, yeah, so at this point, I feel like many of the people around me, my friends, and obviously because we work with birthing people,
Yeah.
and that a lot of people now are not having their first. They're in my little circle, and I think it might be different for you. But people are having their second and third kid. Actually, one of my good friends, who also happens to be a doula, and that's just what happens. Sarah had her sixth child. She had her
Whoa.
second girl. So
Oh, nice.
people are having babies.
Yeah, I think working with pregnant moms and new moms, we definitely see the families growing. However, I went over my client roster from the past years, and I noticed another trend, or maybe not a trend, but another, what that people are having one baby, and then it
Interesting.
has.
Okay, so you're in an opposite. I
So
thought you were in an
yeah.
opposite side.
So I am seeing a little bit of the opposite, but I think both are, and maybe it's just one for now, right? Until the people are sleeping better, perhaps, and then deciding to have another baby. And that got us to thinking, these questions. When do you have another child? What's the right age difference? Uh, yeah. Well, how does that work? How can I, talk about that with the older siblings? All these questions came to mind. So that's why we're here.
Yeah, and I was thinking of you, Sylvia, because you just came back from vacation, like Lala, like just now,
Yes,
today or
yes.
last
Yeah,
night.
that was last night. So
Last night, and I
yeah.
was wondering. I know, like there was maybe not the best weather, and then so you were there in your vacation home with three kids, and I was wondering if there was perhaps a moment of wondering why on earth you had three kids, and maybe you should have just done the one and done thing.
And maybe I should have. I think there are moments like that, Jenny, where I was like, why did I even have children? And then they snuggle up to you and tell you how beautiful you are and love you so much. And then you think, oh, okay, this is why I had more than one child.
Did you think
Yeah.
that you would always have three? Had you planned on
Oh,
having
good
three?
question. I, compared to you, had children later on in life. My first was at 36, and I knew I definitely wanted two and was hoping for three, but because I started later and wasn't sure, how that would play out. And then I did have, Tristan, and then my daughter arrived 2 years later. And then a surprise pregnancy happened. I miscalculated dates, and then voila, baby number three. And lovely surprise. I mean, because we had been thinking of it as well. And then I thought about having a fourth and then started a doula company instead. And that
That
is
was your
just like
baby.
having a baby. And then, yes, so that's, and how about you? I don't want to say in the past tense, or how many babies did you or do you want to have? You have
I
two
have two
beautiful
that are no
babies.
longer babies. My
No,
baby, my baby is 7. I always wanted more. And you just told me how old you were when you have your first. So I'm like, maybe my time
yeah,
is not yet done. Maybe I could have
right.
3 more. Yeah, I don't know if that's in the current plans, but the 1 and the 2 weren't in the current plans either. And my God, I'm
Mm,
so glad that the plans changed.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think my magic number would have been 4. I grew up. I have 2 sisters, And we just kind of grew up around a lot of cousins and big family gatherings. And in my mind, I think, I was going more for that feeling, how nice that feels to be really surrounded by a lot of
Yeah.
kids and a lot of cousins. And it's not the case, and it's actually fine. Life is great, but I didn't think I would be like a single mom with 2 kids at my age. But
Right. Yeah, we never know what's going to happen, right?
yeah,
One of JP's, my spouse's sisters, before she had kids, she says, our plan is to have 6 kids. And I was like, wow, you go for it. And they stopped after 3, just depending on the kids, I think, and the lack of sleep and the attention they needed. They just, yeah, she said, no, that we're good. We're good.
it's interesting because I've often had this question in my mind: if we know when we're
When we're
done,
done, we've
you
talked
know
about
when
that.
you're
Yeah.
done. I think you must know when you're done, or you at least know that you're not done.
What happened with me, I kept all the baby clothes in boxes in the garage and had them labeled boys, 6 to 12 months, 9 to 12, all these, 1 to 2 years old. And I had 12 boxes of clothes in the garage. And GP came to me one day and he said, can I get rid of all of these? And I was like, no, you can't. You can't. He's like, well, can we really? We need the space. I'm like, nope, no. And then a few months later, I said to him, you know what? You can I'll get rid of those clothes now. I
And
think
was
it's
this
good.
because you started your doula company?
Yeah. My doula company was on the rise, and I was very busy and doing late nights and all nights and ramping that up. And I said, yeah, now it's not going to happen. I was totally fine with that decision, right? But when he first talked about it a few months before, I was like, no, you cannot. There was this visceral, do not touch those clothes, the baby clothes. And then yeah.
For me, it was my carriers, and I still have them. They're actually at a yoga studio in St. Henry. I have a large suitcase of every baby wrap and thing you could possibly imagine. I still
Which
haven't
you
let them
still
go.
own, which you still
It's
own.
still there, yeah.
And then my thing, what I said to JP, well, anyway, if we do end up having a 4th, I'll just buy all brand new things anyway. So,
Yeah, there you go.
right?
That sounds like the
Stuff.
Sylvia I know.
And babies don't need that much stuff at the beginning anyway, as we know with when we welcome a 2nd or a 3rd, right? One question I get a lot from people is our clients, how will I be able to make the space for a 2nd child mentally and physically in our heart? How can I love a 2nd child as much as I've loved the first one?
I totally experienced that, and I had a bit of a panic moment. So my kids are 26 months apart, and I was pregnant with my 2nd, and she was still nursing. She was still wearing diapers. I still had a baby, who was and still am deeply. We're very, very attached. And I had a bit of a panic moment, and even after he was born, I had a moment of thinking like it wasn't fair to her, like I had somehow ripped her off of her babyhood. I don't know that I would have planned more spacing if I had kind of planned it out. I think physically closer to 3 years spacing, from what I've read, is probably better for your body, at least to recuperate and get back into and then possibly to avoid the whole tandem nursing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's true. The 3 years my kids are also they're really 2 years apart. 22 months are the first ones are 22 months apart. The 26 months and the girls are 22 months. So not even 2 years old. And I think back, and my middle child had such a difficult time accepting the baby. And then I realized now, I was like, well, of course she was just like, like your kid. She was just a baby, and she had such a hard time managing her feelings. And we had, what I would do with her, what I would tell my husband, okay, he was picking him up from daycare. And I said, call me 5 minutes before. I'll finish feeding the youngest, the baby. I'll put her aside, even if she's crying, as long as I have my arms open for Coco, and then when she arrived, and I would spend 10 minutes with her, and then she was fine after, right? But those moments, she did not want me to have the baby in my arms, like, when she wanted me.
Ever. A really, really good tip. And I think not making not making the difficulties that you have in a subsequent pregnancy the baby's fault. Like I think that can put
Yeah.
some negativity. Like if your older one wants to be picked up and you're pregnant, not to then blame the baby. Oh, I can't pick you up right now because I'm
Yeah.
pregnant. I
Mommy
feel like
needs
that
the
starts to
baby.
put
Yeah.
a lot of negativity and association with to the first, so that when baby is welcome into the world, they're already looking at it like, okay, you've been already taking space, for this long. I think for my daughter, because often I don't think she registered it, and she has, of course, no memory. They don't have
No.
a memory of existing without the younger sibling. They,
Yeah. Yeah.
at 2 or whatever age. I think like for her, so when you're nursing and pregnant, most of the time, the majority of the milk goes away. So you end up either weaning, which at two, most kids aren't naturally ready to go through that. Even when there was no milk left, she was still nursing. So we
Yeah.
quite painfully actually nursed through the entire pregnancy. And it meant at some point, because of the baby, literally because I was pregnant with him, the milk went away. So I'm kind of like, oh, but then the moment the milk returned, before he
Before he was
arrived,
born.
she
Yeah.
says, "Mama, there's milk. There's milk." She was so happy. And you make fattier milk for boys
Yeah.
than you do for girls. So
Oh,
my 2-year-old started to bulk up. She started to
yeah.
get some because she was drinking her
Her
brother's
brother's
milk.
milk. Oh,
Yeah.
isn't that great? That's great.
But the
Come.
question,
Mm,
the question on the heart thing was,
mm,
yeah. So I started to feel guilty even in pregnancy, and worried, how could I possibly love, like clients do, like you do, like I do? How could I love a subsequent child? How's there any space? I had in my mind a pie, and I thought like, okay, I have already the pie divided, and here's the husband pie, and here's the child pie. So now I'm going to have to divide the pie again, but I
mm.
just got a bigger pie. Like
Yeah.
your heart
Just
just grows.
opens up. It
Yeah.
does. And everyone finds their space. It doesn't mean it's easy to integrate a newborn into the family. Of course, there's always going to be, I always thought the first 3 months were rock and roll. Um, yeah, and Sarah mentions here in the comments, yeah, the mom guilt. We have mommy guilt for so many things, right? We feel that we're taking away from that the first child's experience. For sure, their role is going to change, but I think being open and we do end up loving all of our children. And there are families that have 10 children. They love their kids, and they're all different. Talking about being all different, they all react differently too. My son, when he was 2, like new baby, okay, yeah, okay, well, yeah, that's fine. Hey, there she is. And off he went to play with his little animals and cars, right? It was not a big deal for him at all, while his sister had a lot of issues. She felt really torn. Yeah.
And I do wonder, I don't know, the whole gender thing, I try not to get too caught up in it, but a big sis, I think there might be something around that too, with the older sister being more jealous. Our thing started off, so I had Arlo at home, and as I've said, sorry, I'm outside and there's some
Traffic.
traffic. um, I had him at home, and she was like included in my whole birth plan of being present, and it just wasn't possible for her to be
Mm,
at the labor. She had to go away. She went and watched Finding Nemo in the basement while her brother was born. And the moment he was born, I had him up, and he was already latched, and she came up. And you can't make this up. I tell this story a lot. She came up. She came to the other side to nurse. This fire boob is what this side is called. I was going to get that covered up, and I'm not allowed to cover the fire boob up. She came to that side, and she held his hand. She was 2 and a couple months old. She held his hand. She said, "He's my very best friend." And it was this
oh,
moment, I was like,
that melts
oh,
your heart.
thank God, this is going to be okay. And they were holding hands. And one of the reasons I think I chose not to wean her and to do the tandem nursing thing is I had in my mind this very romantic vision of exactly that, holding hand. Didn't always
And
go that way. We'll talk
has
about
it,
nursing too.
7 years later, 9 years later, how is that working for you,
Yeah,
Jenny?
exactly. It was quite rock and roll after that. I mean, she was 2 and a little bit. She was sharing her milk. It felt, and this show isn't to discourage anybody
No,
from
it's
having
just
more kids,
reality. It's
but it was,
reality.
for
It's
that
real.
particular child, she was very jealous, and it was very hard, and I couldn't leave the 2 of them alone. And I should retell her this story again now. I think she'd be a little bit embarrassed or find it funny. And she would hit him, and she was going through a phase of trying to understand what it meant to be a new big sister. And so she was like hitting kids at the park, and it was like, oh, it felt catastrophic. Now they are,
Inseparable almost.
they're inseparable. They still fight. Now that whole time where she was hitting him as a baby, I would say, you have a brother who one day is going to be bigger and stronger than you. That's just the way it's going to work. So take it easy on him now. And she didn't. Now he can hold his weight. He's still shorter than her, but he's a strong, tough guy. And I don't know if I'm the only mom who has kids who yoga teacher, I'm doing this, making fun of myself, peace, love. And I don't have kids who kick the crap out of each other, but you know what? Like, I'm looking at my trampoline, and if you could see the brawling that happens on that trampoline, and sometimes you can't actually tear them apart. And I used to feel really bad about the physical contact. And these days I kind of surrender to it. Hey guys, somebody's going to get hurt. Don't listen. Somebody has a bloody nose, and then I go and clean up the mess. So I don't know if my kids are the only ones that fight, Sylvia.
Oh my gosh, Jenny. Yes, they're the only ones. No. Imagine my kids too. And I use my nice voice at the beginning, okay, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. And then it gets, and I'm like, fine, just kill yourselves. That's fine. I've got 3 kids. That's what I have them for. And then they're like, Mommy, you're so mean. I'm like, but I had my nice voice on before, right? And then there's this frustration. Yeah, Emmy, your daughter's story about finding it difficult. I recall a story being having to breastfeed so often with a newborn, and then your little one comes up, and Coco, she comes up and she wants story, Mommy, story. And I was like, okay, come with the book. No baby, and she would just whack the baby. I'm like, oh no. It didn't last for long. And I think people watching this, if you're wanting to have another child, you'll probably be worried about these things. But look, we all get through it. It's just in those moments, it was a little bit, okay, what do I do? And we find different tools.
It is a rite of passage though, right? Like, we're not the only 2 people who had more than one kid, and definitely birth order has a lot to do with what shapes us. And not every kid, but like my 9-year-old is like, God, she's responsible. She cooks, she'll cook a full meal for all of us, no problem. And it shaped her a lot I think, in a positive way.
Yes. Yeah, totally. And that's what Sarah, I think siblings need to define their own hierarchy. Yes, they do. Some days it's Lord of the Flies. Other days they're the very best friends. I see that all the time. And they send out cards to each other. Oh, I love you. You're the best brother ever. And then the same day in the afternoon, give me back that card. You're not the best. I hate you. I'm like, oh my gosh. However, that being said, I think the pros of having a larger family are these relationships that they build with their siblings. And also as parents, my focus is not just on one child. Like, I will tell them, look, I had more children, for a reason. You can all go play with each other. Mommy needs mommy time right now, or I'm working right now. You go and find yours, go and play together. And they do. My whole focus is not just on one child, which I think having just one, it tends to be that way, right? They don't have anyone to play with at home. So I
have said that too, when they're not playing, I'm like, I made him so you could have somebody to play with. Go.
Exactly. We have very similar parenting styles. So yeah, how do we?
Rained on. Keep talking. I'm getting rained on.
You're getting rained on. Oh no! So wait. If you're watching, tell us your stories. How many kids you have? Are you thinking about having more babies? Are you worried about it? What are you worried about? We want to know. We can answer.
We've just worried you about it. And the timing thing is interesting. We were saying like, oh, if they're, I think like under or over 3, around that age, maybe in some ways it's good for your body. I think that the people, this is just anecdotally, that's not my kid. That's my neighbor who has 5. I think from what I've seen, people who end up having having kids even before that, before the first child realizes what the heck's going on, that
Mm,
sometimes is way smoother than a 2-year-old. You know, when they
yeah.
have like the kind of Irish twin thing, that baby
Yeah.
has no idea what's going on. It's really
Babies are
hard for the mom, but like emotionally, I think the older one doesn't feel quite like they do when they're 3. And my mom had my sister when I was 10, and that
Wow,
was
big
a
difference.
huge difference, and that came with its own great things where I was changing diapers, and then I grew up to teach people to change diapers. But it was even still hard because I had been the baby for 10 whole years.
Right.
10 whole
Yeah.
years. Forget about 2
That's a
years of being a
long
baby.
time. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
probably as jealous as, a 6. I don't know. There's no best time. And then you're factoring in age too. A lot of times if you have your first kid at 36 and you
Yeah,
do
I
want
had
to have
my
more
time
kids,
was
you have to
against me,
make a
right? I
choice.
need to bang, 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 just
Yeah.
pop those babies out, you know? So of
Yeah.
course at the beginning, for 3 babies under 4 years old, that was rock and roll. I won't lie, but it is much easier now, and I look at them and they are self-sufficient now, and it's much easier, but it's something to think about. And I think that's where the scare comes, where people are, how can I, manage, if I can hardly manage one child, how am I going to manage two? And like we said, it happens. We do make that space.
And we do here in Quebec, I find, have a culture, like more of a daycare culture. So it does end up, it's very rare that people are at home full time with 2 or 3 kids.
Mm,
Mostly people here, even compared to Ontario, which is where I'm from, Ontario's the daycare is so expensive that if you have 2 kids, you usually can't afford much daycare. Here, it's so cheap. Sometimes people, in order to keep their spot in the daycare, will put in a 6 or 9 month old kid
mhm.
to hold the space. And
Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
did that with
I
my
found it challenging. I think too, when he was born, her daycare had closed. The wonderful
mm,
daycare we had finally found. She moved to Switzerland, and I was like, okay, well, the daycare is closed. All of the people around me are capable of taking care of 2 young kids at the same time, and it was hard. So I think it's great. I think personally, the longer that kids are home with their parents, the better for the kid. I also really, really understand when the clients we have now are looking for daycares and
mm.
anticipating what they're going to do with 2 kids, and they at least let them have some relief during the days
Yeah,
to
and I
be
think
with
it's
just the
knowing
newborn.
knowing yourself, like compared to you. I did put my kids back in daycare, and I wanted them to keep their routine, and I wanted to have that 1 year with the second baby and really get to know her well and give her that time. And my son was really happy at daycare, just shorter days, which were nice. And I did the same thing with my third. And I look at my neighbor who has 3 little girls, and she keeps them at home the whole time, and I'm like, wow, like hats off, because that's just not. I would have a really hard time
Mhm,
doing that. I
mhm.
would be able to do it, but and everything that's all fine, right? Choices, they're choices.
Yeah,
Knowing
for sure.
knowing ourselves. I mean, now here we are living in COVID-19 times, and everyone is camp counselor these days, right? Staying home with the kids. So we know it's not easy. Let's leave people some tips and tools. Like, how did you prepare Amélie for Arlo's arrival?
Oh,
Did you
geez,
do anything?
it feels like it was 7 years ago.
Mhm.
We read, we found those books
Yeah.
where it explained that baby was coming, and I tried my best to just get her really excited about it, knowing that, she's a big girl now, and I guess that's what set up the whole thing. She's a big girl now, and she can help
Mhm.
mommy with this and with that, and she was incredibly helpful to the point where once they ended up in daycare together, I was spoken to by them. They were at a beautiful Montessori daycare, which in Montessori is very emphasized on independence, the child's independence. But Arlo had had a big sister who was zipping his jacket for him. Like he was not doing the things that she had
Right.
done for herself because he has always had a little mama beside him.
Yeah.
The other couple months ago, I had taken both of them to the yoga studio that I work at. I was just stuck with the 2 kids, so no problem. I brought them, and I'm teaching a prenatal yoga class, and just outside of the room, there's a tea lounge and some benches, and they were having tea, and I hear this shrillest scream, and I I hear my child freaking out, and Arlo had fallen.
No.
What fluke? They, fallen off the bench, and then the bench fell and hit his face.
Mhm.
You can't leave your yoga class when you're teaching, but you also can't hear your baby screaming in the other room. So, okay, guys, and they're horrified because they're pregnant all with their first kid, and like, oh my
That's
god,
nice.
it's more stressful for them than me. I kind of calmly walk out, and
That's
what's going on?
okay.
He was
Good.
just gushing
Oh,
blood, and there were a few adults around that kind of helped that situation become managed. But then when I was done my class, I came out, and Emily had Arlo in her arms the whole time.
mhm.
She was holding him with an ice pack. And
Nice.
she looked at me and said,
Wow.
"Mommy, is he okay?" Like she held that space for me. She knew I was coming back, but she, at her age, wasn't entirely sure that everything
Yeah.
was
So
okay.
beautiful.
But
So
there's
nice.
so many examples where, yeah, she'll hurt him. Like oh God, her nail, like they get into the,
Of course. Of
but if
course.
anybody messes with her brother, she will be there for
Yeah.
him.
One thing we do, and I suggest to our clients too, is to have a little gift from the new baby to the older child. I always thought that worked for our kids. They got a little something from the new baby when they came and visited me at the hospital.
Like a
Like
tutu or
a little
okay.
book or a little tutu that the
Wow.
baby gave them. So that was like,
Nice.
wow, the baby gave me this. And I'm like, yeah, the baby, it's from the baby, it's from Gael or it's from Coco. And they were like,
Wow.
that worked well on one of them. Also, when you are welcoming, say you are at the birthing center or the hospital, and these are very practical tips that I'm thinking of, but to not have your newborn in your arms when the other children or child come to see you, right? So you have their arms always open for them. They will come and run. They haven't seen you probably for a couple of days since you've been away. They come run into your arms, and then you can show them the baby, right? And often they'll get off your lap and then go and want to hold the baby.
Wonderful.
If you look at the ad picture, Jenny, that we put on this for this show, Coraline is hands off. She's got the baby on her, but she's like hands off the baby. And I'm like, oh no, the baby's. And then in your picture, Amelie's got her finger up in Arlo's nose or cheek or mouth or something. I'm like, this is what it is, right? And it's.
It really was, but I feel like too with birth order, I find fascinating. I don't know a whole lot about it, but just in things that I've observed and students that I've had who have the second kid, pretty much across the board, the second kids end up being easier babies. And in just the way I figure that out, it's like, okay, you have your hands in this 2-year-old's diaper. The baby, unfortunately, is going to have to just kind of chill while you do it. And whereas the first kid, most of us are like, the moment you hear, you don't let them. I didn't let her cry, and I'm happy I went that. But like, she didn't get to even make any noise. It was like boob right away.
Yeah.
Whereas with
Yeah.
him, he's significantly more chill than she is. Again, there's all the other factors, but.
Oh, wonderful. It's fun. Grow your families. This is what we're here for.
Is that why we're here? I'm wondering.
We are here to help you,
That's why
grow
we're
your
here.
families.
I thought you mean that
to birth.
we're
You're on
here
earth.
to have big families, which
No,
it could be
I
the
do.
case. It could be.
Yeah, it's true. No, our grandmothers who had 19 babies. No, Sarah made a comment before. She said, had I had them younger, she has 3 of them. She goes, had I had them 5 years younger, I would have had 4 or 5 babies. And I think both of us, you had yours younger too, but if circumstances were different, we love giving birth and we both would have a lot of babies, but I just don't want to raise them all. And that's my thing,
It's interesting that you say that. Is that I love being pregnant, and I love giving birth so much that I've thought about being a surrogate, legit thought about being a surrogate. I think the thing that stops me is the fear, like, because there's still a part of me that legit wants more kids. I don't think that I could be separate. I don't know. Surrogacy is an incredible topic, and it would be really nice to explore that with a guest who's been through it in the future for people who are interested. But just in my way, I don't think at this point in my life I could do that. I think I'm too selfishly wanting more for myself.
Oh, well, this is exciting. You're not finished yet. Maybe, perhaps. We'll see.
Don't prophesize anything.
Well, put your comments in the comments. It's time for us to go. But thank you so much for being here, everybody. And we've had Sarah with all her comments today. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Mama, I know Sarah very, very well, and we were pregnant at the same time. We lived. Sorry, I hope this is okay, Sarah. I'm sure you're going to love it. Sarah and I met, we lived in the same building, which quite recently burnt down. It was this beautiful old building in the glebe. And Sarah and Megan lived downstairs, and then I lived upstairs with Caitlin and Shannon. And it was all girls that were similar in age, in that we were, finishing or had finished or were finishing university. We felt like a sorority house.
Oh,
And
nice.
at the end, when the majority of us were pregnant all at the same time. So
Oh my gosh, isn't that great though?
yeah, it was very, very, it was very,
Oh,
very
lovely. Oh, wonderful.
so yeah,
Well, thank
Sarah would have had a
She would have had a
farmland of many, many babies, I'm sure of it.
Well, again, thank you. Have a great week, everybody. We'll be back next week and with more musings. And I wish you a wonderful week. Put your comments in, invite your friends. The more, the merrier. And if you do have questions about this or anything related to birth and pregnancy, you just reach out. Oh, where do I have the websites here? JennyByoga.com. She's offering a whole bunch of different services these days, from massage to baby prenatal yoga, postnatal yoga. You've got a mummy and mom and daughter retreat coming up. And if you need prenatal classes and doula services, you can call me and we can chat. I've got to run.
Thank you
Bye,
so much, Sylvia. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Have a great week.